everybody, Shawn Tubbs here. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Pettyjohn GOLD Overdrive. Really great sounding overdrive pedal. Let's get right into the controls. The top left control is your level control, and that's going to control the overall output of the pedal, the volume of the pedal. Your top right control is your gain control, and that's going to give you a pretty wide gain range of Marshall-inspired tones from low gain all the way to full-on distortion. Now on your bottom left, you have a sweepable lows control, and that's going to allow you to sweep from 20 Hertz all the way to 750 Hertz. On your bottom right, you've got a sweepable highs control, and that's going to allow you to sweep from 20 kilohertz all the way down to 1 kilohertz. Now as far as your mid controls go, those are the controls in the center of the pedal. You're going to be able to choose a frequency, any frequency between 400 Hertz or 2K, and you're going to be able to boost or cut that frequency 8 dB, which is super versatile, really great for dialing in those mids. Now under the hood, you've actually got a couple mini switches. One is going to be for your high-end control. It comes from the factory set to the RE cap, which is a really transparent, great sounding cap, very high-end audiophile cap. And that's how I left it set for the demo, but if you wish, you can check out the orange cap by throwing the switch to the down position, and that's going to give you a more vintage-inspired top end, a little bit softer top end. Now there's also a headroom switch. It comes from the factory set to the high headroom setting, but you can move it to the low headroom setting if you'd like to get a little bit more harmonic saturation and overdrive. Now, all of the Pettyjohn pedals are dual rail power, and you can choose from 9 all the way up to 18 volts. And of course, they're true hardwire bypassed. And true to form, these guys are all high-end audiophile components. So this is just a really great sounding pedal. Let's get right into listening to it. Okay, let's give this Gold Overdrive a listen. I'm going to use my PRS Dave Grissom into my divided by 13 FTR 37 amp. So here's just the guitar and the amp. And here's the overdrive pedal. So really great kind of Marshall-esque Plexi thing going for sure. The pedal feels really good. It feels like you're playing an amp, which I really appreciate when builders can kind of get it to actually feel like an old kind of Plexi or maybe a modified JCM 800, something along those lines, where it's not a ton of kind of sag or compression, but there's enough there that it feels like you're definitely still plugged into an amp. So I've got the gain dialed pretty low. Let's just go ahead and sweep that so you guys can kind of get a feel for what it does. Now right now I've got the pedal set in the high headroom setting, so if you wanted even more kind of saturated tone, you could go ahead and throw that switch the other way, and you would get a little more kind of harmonic stuff going on, and you'd certainly get some more saturation. But I pretty much left the switches where they were. I always try to just go with how the pedal came from the factory when I'm demoing them, and it sounds great. That's a lot of gain, but if you need more, it's possible. Now the one thing I should show real quick, because I was sweeping it around, is it does clean up nicely. So yeah, it's a nice responsive pedal pretty much throughout the whole gain range. Obviously the output of the pedal is self-explanatory. If you do want to hit your amp harder, like right now, I've got it just a little above unity. If you hit your amp a little bit harder, now we're kind of cranking the front end of the amp a little bit more, and it's got a really cool tonality that way. Just keep in mind, obviously, as you do start increasing the gain, the volume might jump, so you might have to adjust accordingly with your output levels. But that's how that goes. Let's just go with the high control first. I'll let you hear that. So here's rolled all the way to the left. About 12. I found that control to be really useful. It's super musical. It doesn't get super gnarly if you do happen to crank it all the way up. And I really liked it for dialing in rhythm tones. So there's that. Let's check out the lows. I'm going to go ahead and let's start them at 12 o'clock, and then I'll roll them left and right. Now that control really reminded me of like a Plexi Circuit, where once you get it to a certain level, it's less audible, and you start kind of feeling more of it than hearing it. But it worked great, especially when I was dialing up solo tones. As I backed it off, I was able to gain a little bit more in the mids, which was awesome. So if I turn it all the way off, quite a bit of mid there. If I put it at about 12 o'clock, there's still a mid presence, but now there's this really great kind of like pillowy low end that just feels really good. And the box does sound a little bit tighter when you're kind of in that, you know, left side of noon setting. So instead of being straight up, you're just kind of to the left. That's where I found the pedal, for me, felt the best. But it just depends on your guitar and amp and how you play and all that stuff. But it's a really great, very musical control. Now the last thing I'll look at is the sweepable mids. Now you can sweep from 400 to 2K, which is really cool, and then you've got 8 dB of cut or boost of whatever frequency you pick. So, and it is a kind of a bell curve, which is awesome. It's not super sharp and spiky. It's real musical. It's very musical, especially for guitar. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'm going to turn up the mid level, and I'm going to sweep it so you can hear it, and then I'll go the other way with the level. So this is 2K. That's 400 now. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just, we'll leave it at 2K, and I'll show you the amount of just level range you can get. So right now we're 8 dB cranked. I'll go the other way. So man, you can go crazy dialing that in. What I would suggest is starting at noon on your level control. And for me, I was kind of, I guess, creeping towards 2K when I first started dialing in solo sounds. Like, I thought that sounded really sweet, and that's basically kind of flat, and it's at about, I don't know, what is that, 3 o'clock? So I'm not sure what that exact frequency would be. But I just started kind of cranking a little bit at a time. Until I kind of had that mid bite that I wanted. And then I just kind of tweaked highs accordingly. So now if you want like a warmer mid, we could go closer to kind of 12 o'clock in the actual mid frequency, and it'll sound warmer. Or we could bring in more of the kind of tube screamer thing. Or we could go with trying to scoop some of that out. Like say you wanted to go maybe a neck position. And that's kind of what I did on the Stratocaster actually. Solo was I ended up boosting a little bit more of the mid and closer to the 2K range with more highs. And with this guitar, because it's a humbucker, it might need a little bit more. So man, the tonal variations are just killer on this thing. You can pretty much get whatever you want out of it for pretty much any situation. And it is certainly more of a Marshall Plexi, like I said, meets kind of a modded JCM 800 thing. And it really does kind of blur the lines between a dedicated overdrive box and maybe a distortion box. Yeah, very versatile pedal. I really enjoyed checking it out. So yeah, that concludes this video. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll have another product demo for you soon.